Hello, folks. Welcome back after a quick mini vacation I took for the holidays. I hope everybody did okay during the Christmas season and New Year's, and hopefully this 2023 will be great for all of you. What we have in front of us now is a 75 plus array related functions in PHP. I don't know how many they are. They're about 75, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little more. These are all array related functions. And I didn't use a program to do this instead. I mean, I tested all of them, but what I've done here is a PowerPoint. This is an actual PowerPoint video. And I'm going to just go over each one of them because there's so many functions. I just want to go over them and I'll just describe and I'll put an example. So here's the first one. Obviously, we can do arrays, and there's two ways to do an arrays. Actually, there's more than three, but and we use the array and we put in the value one, and then we can have optional values, or we can do a key and a value. If it's an associative array, we can do keys and values for the array. And as you can see in the description, array and in parentheses 1, 2, 3 is the same as doing $$a, $$ array, obviously, equals, and then brackets 1, 2, 3. So there's two different ways of doing this. And they can be indexed, associative, or multidimensional, which is an array within an array. Here's the example on the right. I have an array with some brands for vehicles, and I'm using the for each to display them. And then there's an associative array, and I'm doing the same, displaying them. And then there's a multidimensional array. I didn't include none of the examples. I'm including the outcome, but these are all tested examples. You're welcome to just copy paste them if you want. So anyways, multidimensional array obviously has two indexes instead of one. So that's the array function, or I guess two syntaxes for the same thing. Then we have the array change key case, where changes the key in an array to lower or uppercase, and the case will be either case lower or case upper. And there's the example. And I'm printing the with print, I'm using the function printr to print the array. Again, you can just copy and paste this to your, or just copy from the screen and do in your own PHP environment. These are all tested examples. So anyways, just change it to case upper, lower. Very simple. The array chunk splits an array into chunks of new arrays. And you can have an optional preserve key, which is defaulted to false. So there's the example. Again, it splits an array into different chunks of arrays. So that's how this works. Then we have the array column, and then we have an array, a column key, and an optional index key. This function returns the values of a single column on an array. So let's say you have, and then I look at the example, this is a multi-dimensional array where the F name is, different names, then you have last names, and you have ages. And I selected a column. First, I selected a F name, and it makes this new array, if you will, an array of only those values. So it's a perfect way to getting just a single value of multiple arrays, the first, the third, the fifth, whatever it is. The array combine creates an array by using the elements from the keys, or one keys array, and then the values of another array. So if you look at the example, we have the names array, we have names, then the ages on the second one, that will be the age array, and I can combine them, and it'll make a combined array with both of the values. The array count values counts of the value of an array. It basically tells me how many items, how many times an item is an array. It's a perfect way to get, how many times the array, or how many times the number 15 or whatever, it's in an array. It's like a way of counting, not the number of elements in the array, but how many times a particular element is within the array, all of the elements. It gives you a little report. The array div checks on one or two or more arrays and returns the differences between them. It basically, and if you can see the example, one has the word black with the key B, the other one doesn't. So it will return the difference between the two arrays. The different association is the same thing, but for an associative array. So it's going after the keys instead of the values. The diff key functions returns difference between two or more arrays, but based only on the key parts. The diff USO, basically in PHP, and you're going to see this throughout several of the functions work the same way. You can create your own function, whatever the function may be, and then included within this function, when they have that letter U, and I'm going to use my mouse, when they have this letter U here, that means it's expecting a function at the end. And basically you can make a function, in this case is comparing them, but it could be anything. And it'll expect that function. So it's a function that expects the name of another function. It's a strange way, but it works pretty handy. And here we have for the U keys on the key side, basically the same as the other one, but on the key side, again, with my own user-defined function. And yeah, so my function, okay. Then we have the array fill. As the name states, it will fill out an array with the same value. It basically repeats the same value multiple times. The field keys is the same, but for the keys. And, you know, and it's kind of strange for people, if you come from another platform like C++ or BASIC or Pascal or whatever, C#, associative arrays are not used like they are in PHP. Here we have keys and we have values for every single array. Basically, in other languages like C or BASIC, you know, you have indexes. So they all start as 0, 0, 1, 2, 3. Here is the same thing, except that you can actually tell it, hey, don't start as 0, 1. I want it to be A, B, C, or there could be a name, like name, F name, L name, you know, whatever. So you're going to see this throughout the examples, and we have the word keys to specify that key. The array filter uses a function to support the function to filter elements of an array. Basically, you pass the values of the array, it passes it through to the function. Now, one thing that I want to note here is different. I only did it on this example, not on the others. Most of the time you have a function, and here's my function, is it odd? Basically, if it's value n1, if it's true, that means it's odd, right? Otherwise, it would be even. And here's my array. And the reason I'm going over this example specifically here is print array filter array, and then it's odd, right? That's the name of this function. However, here it is. I can also do this like this, array filter array, and I actually included the function. It's the same function. If you look at it, it receives an item in 1, it returns item. This is the same function as this, but it's built in within the array itself. So you can include you can do that in PHP, which is awesome. It's a different way of doing things. And you have optional values here for filter use key or use both, right? The array flip exchanges or flips keys with associated values in the array. The intersect function compares an array to 2 or more arrays and returns the contents of the first array that are present in the other arrays. This is a quick way of knowing if elements of one array are present in other arrays. The intersect association, the same thing, but on associative arrays, of course. And of course, you can do this for keys. It's very common in PHP, everything by association, by keys, or you can do your own function for association and for keys. It's very repetitive, but they do the same thing. It's just which one do you want to use? Maybe you feel you can do a better function, or maybe your function is very specific to something else. You know, you can do a specific function to check for something, and then do your own usage. This is for the keys. Array key exists. This function checks an array for a specific or a specified key and returns true if it exists or false if it doesn't. The default is if omitted is 0, of course, but that is to check if a particular key is in the array. This function returns an array containing the keys of the array. So the keys here being, of course, A and B and C and D, it returns those in the array. Another thing to mention is the strict here, comma strict. One thing, remember, if I put $sign A equals 5, $sign A equals quote 5, I know one's a string, the other one is a number, but you can do math with those. You can actually do quote 5 quote plus quote 5, and it will actually tell me 10. But if you use the strict, it says, nope, no. This is a string and this is a number. It forces you. This is a good practice, by the way. This is a great practice to make sure that you're doing things right. The array map function sends each value of an array to a user-defined function, then returns an array with the new values given the user-made function. Think of this as, how can I explain this the easiest way? An exchange, right? Sends the array here, multiplies times 1,000 and returns it here. It's a string, it adds something else and it returns. I'm returning a modified value, but all of the stuff in the array will be sent element by element, element by element. Here I'm just printing them, but it'll say, instead of my name is Ray, my name is Mary, my name is John, my name is, it will actually say that. So it sends each value in the array to a user-defined function and modifies it. Obviously the merge, as it states, is to merge arrays together, puts them together. Recursive is used when you have, you can use it when you have multidimensional arrays. We have 2 or more arrays, but the difference between the arrays, when they have the same key, instead of overwriting the keys, this function makes the value as an array. So you can have for multi array, for multidimensional arrays, or you can do it when they have the same keys. It doesn't keep one key, it actually has 2 keys. The multisort, and then you can see it has an array, and then you can do an order and the type, and then you can do this as many as you need. This function returns a sorted array. You can sort an array, it does it for you. Don't worry about it says array merge, because I'm using the same example. Here's the multisort, okay? Ignore this and put attention to this. But basically, this, because I was doing my example, I would just keep retyping and doing it and retyping and doing it. That's why it says array merge, but it's actually multisort. And you can do ascending or descending. Ascending is the default. And then you can do the type of sorting. You're gonna see these several times throughout this presentation. I usually do the default. I can see where there might be times when you want to do a locale string or something like that, but there's I never used it, to tell you the truth, other than the sort is ascending in the default sort regular. The array pad inserts a specified number of elements with a specified value to an array. So the array pop, this function deletes the last element in an array. So it's way to get, and it's always the last one, so you have to be careful with this. The product returns the product of an array. It basically multiplies the element of the array times something. And it's always all of the elements times a specific element. The push is the opposite of pop. It allows you to add an element to the end of the array. This is a perfect way of adding, you can ask for a record, let's say name, this, that, whatever, and then add it to the end. It's a perfect way to appending an array. And you don't have to worry about the indexing and all that. Rand obviously returns a random key from an array, or it returns an array of random keys if you specify that function to return more than one key. Reduce sends the values of an array to a user-defined function, returns a string, effectively reducing the array to a single value. You really have to do the example to actually show you what it does, but here it's going to get all these values 5, 6, 7, and 8, and see I'm sending the array here, and it's going to return the values plus 12, right? The array replaces the value of the first array with those of the following arrays, but if multiple arrays are used, values from the later arrays will override the previous arrays. Now, what does that mean? Well, maybe you have an array that has 5 elements, but the second one has 7 and the third one has 9. So it'll eventually add, the 7 all the way to 7 and then all the way to 9. And some of the 7 9s may repeat or not. So it'll just keep appending as long as they're different. The replace recursive. It works similar, but you can use it in multidimensional arrays and as many as you need is recursively. Reverse returns the array in reverse order. It's a perfect way of reversing all the values, basically. So if you have an array of 3 elements, the first one becomes the third, and the third becomes the first. The second one will stay the same. Search, you can search for a value and return the key. The array shift removes the first element from an array and returns the value of the removed element. So not only it takes it away, but it tells you what is taken away. The slice returns a selected part of an array. If the array has strings, it will preserve the keys. This is awesome, an awesome function. You need to specify the start and the length, however. I never mess around with the preserve, but I always do the start. You could do without the length, but I usually use it. You can take a piece out of the array. The splice, very similar, removes elements from an array and replaces it with new elements. This is a perfect way of editing, for example, if you want to edit a value. The sum will return the sum of all the array elements. Here in this example, I have 1 through 10. It's basically going to add 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 and so on all the way. It's going to add them. The udiff compares the values of 2 or more arrays and returns the differences, but it uses a user-defined function to do this. And of course, we can do this for associative. And you can use user-defined functions for associative. And of course, you can do user-defined for your intersect, compares the values of 2 or more arrays and returns the matches. And of course, for associative. And user-defined functions for both the intersect and the function, the keys and all that. Basically, you're making your own functions and sending them into an array that a function that calls on those functions. Unique removes duplicates from an array. You can see how potentially cool this can be. How many duplicates and you're not sure about? This is one quick way of getting rid of your duplicates. Unshift inserts, this function inserts new elements to an array. The new array values will be inserted in the beginning of the array as opposed to at the end of the array. This array function returns the values of an array without the keys. The walk, array walk, runs each element of the array on a user-defined function. Both keys and values are parameters in this function. This is cool. This is, again, you see I'm using the ampersand, and if you follow my tutorials, this is a pointer, okay? So this is a quick way of changing the values of a, through the functions, basically, because you're doing this in a, not by value, but by address. Recursively with multidimensional arrays, of course. And then we have the AR sort and KR sort. They both do the same thing, but they sort an associative array in descending order or ascending order, depending on which one of the functions you use. Compact. This function creates an array from variables and their values. Any strings that do not match a variable names will be skipped. Compact takes a variable number of parameters. Each parameter can be either a string containing the name of a variable or an array of variable names. It could be both. The array can contain other arrays of variable names inside it. So it handles it recursively. All of these are in this, I put them together, current and next. They all have to do with arrays because it gives you the current index number, the current position of the on the array. It can go to the end of the array. It could give you the next number on the array, the previous one. You can go to the beginning with the reset, or each tells you, returns the current point of the location and moves the pointer forward. The extract function imports variables into the local symbol table from an array. This function uses array keys as variable names and values as variable values. For each of the element, it will create a variable in the current symbol table. This function returns the number of variables extracted on success. Array is required, obviously, and here's the extract rules. You can override, skip, prefix, and all that. And of course, you have prefixes on top of that. Here's the example. Run the example. This is the best way to explain how this works. In array, obviously, it's a researches an array for a specific value to make sure if it's there, it will return a true or false. And then we have key. This function returns the element key from the current internal pointer position, false on error. So basically, it tells you the key value that currently is on. This function is used to assign values to a list of variables in a one operation, obviously from an array. Sort, rsort, and natsort, and natksort, all of these functions will sort the array. The sort will sort an index array in ascending order. The rsort is in index and descending order. The natsort is by using a natural order algorithm, and the natkSort does the same, but by for the case and the original keys. The source can be numeric, string, regular, locale, and natural. Then we have range. This function creates an array containing a range of elements. This function returns an array of elements from low to high. So you have your low number, your high number, and how many steps. And like I said, I didn't put a printouts of the examples, but in this case, for example, it'll start from 2 all the way to 11 every 3. So it'll be 2, 5, 8, and 11. Shuffle randomizes the order of the elements in an array. It's perfect for randomizing, by the way, obviously. The usort, UA sort, and UK sort, they sort the array using user-defined functions, all three of them. And this is something very, you can see that it's very repetitive in PHP. It gives you a way of doing it, and it tells you you can always do your own and then use it here. That's what those personal functions are. All right, so we have reached the end of the array-related functions in PHP. I know it went a little fast, but there's just too many functions. I don't think I would use half of them to be honest with you. Familiar with them, but I don't use them all. But anyways, there they are. I hope you see some value in having them all. Use them as a cheat sheet. And my next video will be on validating forms in PHP. Until next time, if you like this, please subscribe and like my video. Thank you.